Hello everyone. Round 2 of this year's Puzzle GP was recently concluded. I'm very happy to have contributed some puzzles to it, and I thought I'd create walkthroughs, maybe also talk about the design process for some of them, and I suppose I'll just go through my own puzzles, sorted by their point values from low to high, and this was the lowest pointer in the whole set. This genre is called Heteromino, and I put the relevant parts of the rules up above. And design-wise, just a few words. I consider these shapes as just a bunch of shaded cells. The only part that breaks the total rotational symmetry is these whites and blacks. Everything else is 180 degrees rotationally symmetric. I always like those kind of puzzles when the actually symmetric parts resolve rather differently, and I hope I managed to make that work. And now onto the puzzle. There are dead ends, but everything has to be part of a triomino. You cannot leave any cell behind, so these are simple starts. There are progress to be made around the 2 and the 3, so maybe I can just show this part. Whenever you have a tunnel like this, I mean a one wide tunnel, vertical or horizontal, you run the risk of making the same stick shapes touch, I mean the 1 by 3s. What I mean is that, for example, if you break the shapes here, you will get an issue with the two eye shapes touching, the vertical 1 by 3s touching. So you get at least this. But you still have the same issue if you do this, because then you will have the 1 by 3s touching this way. You still cannot avoid it. So you actually need a cornering triomino here, and it forces this immediately. You still have the same issue, and what I mean is that you cannot go up because these two are still identical shapes. And now you have the same issue in reverse. Now if you make this triangle turn, then these two are identical. So you can get this rather easily if you are somewhat familiar with the genre. The progress here is kind of by contradiction, let's say. What I mean is that if you make this go the wrong way, like so, and you will have no chance but to make this triomino here, and now the identical shapes are touching again. So there is some fast progress this part as well. Something similar is here about this cell. So if you come to it from above, like so, you will force another one, and these two are again identical and touching, so this has to go away. But this also cannot come into that cell either, because they are still the same shape. So you will get this and these. And there's a counting argument you can make, because the remaining grid is almost divided into two. The only part that connects them is this tunnel. So one of the ways to draw this leaves behind an appropriate amount of cells for the two halves. And as you fill in the grid with triominoes, what you leave behind has to be a multiple of 3 always. So this is the wrong way to do it. You can count the remaining white cells in the two parts, and neither of them is a multiple of 3, so you cannot divide them into triominoes anymore. So this is the right version. I mean, I skipped past the actual counting, but trust me, I guess. So these two are touching, so they cannot be the same triomino like this. This goes up, immediately forces most of it. Now these two are touching, so they cannot both be vertical 1 by 3s. So we get this part done. We have this also. Now this cannot turn left because it would be the same as that. This one is good to look at because there's a shaded cell here. So if you don't go right at all, then you will force two touching vertical 1 by 3s. Similar thing is here. If you don't take this, these two are again touching identical shapes. And we are on to the last part here. There are a few ways you can see it, like quick contradictions if you like. Maybe I can show it through here. Again, if you don't take this, these will want to continue and you will get multiple issues touching identical shapes, non-triaminos. So we have this. And finally, probably the easiest way to see it is this wrong configuration because it will force all of these. It's almost good, but there are two identical shapes touching. So this one is like so. And we just have three triaminos left. We cannot do this and leave behind a wrong amount of cells. So this is no good, and we can do this. And the only thing left to see is that if you do this, then you also are forced to take it, and you still have identical touching triaminos. So instead, you do this and arrive at the final solution. I hope this was useful. This is the lowest pointer in the set, as I said. If you are familiar with it, most of the deductions should be pretty quick for you, but I still hope this was somewhat useful, and I hope to see you again in the next video.